my New Year's resolution this year, which I think I've stuck to, is just like be honest with people and be yourself.
Hey, welcome to episode 96 of the podcast with Phoebe Bridgers, who I have to thank more than I usually would any of our other guests, because this is the second time that we have made this podcast. I met up with Phoebe originally during lockdown when she was living here in London for about a month or so. We had a lovely chat. It was a great time. And then I realised once I got home or back to our office that I hadn't pressed record. Thankfully, Phoebe is a nice enough person to do a do-over with me. So this conversation that you're about to hear was recorded whilst Phoebe was back in Los Angeles. We did this over Zoom. She recorded her end of the conversation, I recorded mine. We stuck them together, and I think it's better than the first conversation that we had, but you're going to have to take my word for that, because no one will ever hear it. There are some links below as per usual. They'll all make sense as we go along. Down there is a link for Uncabaret, which is the comedy show that Phoebe's mum is a part of as a stand-up comic. I should warn you that this episode does contain some particularly bad language. There's a part where we're talking about Phoebe's favourite swear words, and some of them are the really bad ones. Other than that, I hope you enjoy it. If you want to support this podcast, there's a link below as well to our supporter page where you can just make a donation to keep us making episodes of Midnight Chats. We're approaching our 100th episode at the moment. And if you want to know more about Loud and Quiet in general and becoming a Loud and Quiet member, that's all at loudandquiet.com/subscribe. Members will receive all of our magazines that we make, and we're also working on a new podcast especially for our members, which will be coming a bit later this month, and we'll keep you informed on that, see if we can tempt you in that way. For now though, this is number 96 of Midnight Chats with the incredible, extremely funny Phoebe Bridgers, who I should say released a great album during the middle of lockdown in June. I'm sure you've heard it already, but if you haven't, it's called Punisher, and although it's extremely sad, it's very good, and Phoebe, as you're about to hear, is extremely funny. Okay, here we go. You're in LA, right? Are you at home? Is that your home I can see behind you? It looks like a lovely log cabin.
It is very lovely, yeah. I love it. I like being home, but also America is the worst. It's the worst. Right. I fucking hate it. It's so embarrassing to be American.
Because you were here for a little bit, and because you obviously tour a lot, do you find every time you go back, you realise it? Is it the worst right now because it's the worst right now, or is it the worst because you've been away and you've been away from it and you've come back and you're like, oh, shit, I forgot it was like this?
Yeah, I mean, I literally came back and then it was like, oh, California's on fire. Ruth Bader Ginsburg died. I used to think, do you remember in 2016 when all of our heroes died and everybody was just like, oh my God, this is the worst year ever?
That was the Trump year?
Yeah, exactly.
It was that, yeah, that was considered like the worst year. And then 2020 has come along and shown it what for. And
I also think that people are realizing that just because 2020 is the worst doesn't mean it's going to be over in a calendar year. Like 2021 could just be it for us. It could just continue to suck. White nationalists could take over the country. At least this is what I like. So yes, to answer your question, I do feel the worst right now, having had some space from it and then coming back and being like, oh, it is as bad as it could possibly be right now. As far as like we handled the pandemic worse than anywhere else, obviously. But that is even more apparent to me after having distance and then California being on fire.
I mean, not that this is a competition, but I feel like we're giving you a run for your money. I think maybe you are doing it worse than us, but I think we're trying to keep up. I think we're like in the UK, we're thinking...
but like the states, because the states are so separate here, and like because Trump didn't take any responsibility whatsoever for dealing with it, it's like, you know, the super, super red states are like, it doesn't exist. And then in California, they're like, everybody hide. So yeah, it's just like separate waves of like a new group of people leaves their house, you know?
How are you feeling about the election? Let's do the let's get the election chat out the way.
Let's get it over with. I don't want to say this because it's so sacrilege, but I feel powerless, kind of. Like, just the election last time was such a shock to everybody. Or I don't want to say to everybody. I have a lot of, like, friends of color that were like, oh, yeah, duh. Like, this has always been the system. It's been invisible to you because you're a white lady from Silver Lake. But it was such a shock last time that this time I'm just like, well, I feel like I have control over my universe, and that's all I can really think about. Where it's like, I'm going to try my hardest to make sure that I'm speaking out as much as possible and putting my money where my mouth is as far as like charity and making sure that there's no, you know, shadow banning and whatever in my world. But at the end of the day, it's like, I just hope that good people show up, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to be there. They can't take me away from my polling place. But again, I live in California, so it's kind of like a no-brainer every year.
So you're in like the east of the city, right? You're in Silver Lake.
Yeah, I'm surrounded by the liberal elite bubble. That's what I live in.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah, me too. It's nice, right?
Yeah,
it's nice
totally.
and warm and
It's so
cozy.
warm. This is where I'm cozy and comfy. But yesterday I was driving in Santa Monica and drove by like the veteran cemetery.
Right.
And there were all these tents with American flags outside of them. And I haven't looked into it yet. I assume it's like they're letting homeless veterans stay there in their tents. But I was like, if this was in the writer's room, this would be rejected as too obvious.
Right.
Like, it's such, like, homeless veterans sleeping on top of dead veterans is like the craziest thing I've ever. Oh God, wait, someone's calling me. No. Call answered on phone. Okay. Wait, okay, we're back. Hello.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it sounds
anyway.
like it's like an SNL sketch that they would have rejected and said
They would have been like, no, that's too stupid.
Too
That
much.
sounds like an 80s movie, too on the nose. Yeah, totally.
Last time we met, it was in person. You were here in like a kind of a bit of a sweet spot, I think, because the weather was good, lockdown was kind of good. That was good, by the way. The thing
It
you
was
saw,
good.
that was like the good time. It's kind of got bad again now, and you were enjoying it. You liked our bad language, I seem to remember.
Oh yeah, I love cunt is just my favorite word. It just really, yeah, I every time I'm over there and then I come back, I'm like, oh right, nobody says cunt over here. I have to stop.
Because everyone's appalled when you say it. You like, it slips out and people are
Yeah, I mean,
super
weirdly,
offended, right?
I think we talked about this before, but I think in like queer culture, weirdly, you can say it as much as you want.
Okay.
Like, I think it's almost like the shock value of it is what's so valuable, you know? But I hear way more people say it nowadays. But yeah, if I say it to like my mom or something, she's like, yeah. Although I've heard her use it. Don't be fooled.
Have you?
Oh yeah, my mom is like when she divorced my dad, she decided to do stand-up comedy.
No, she
And
didn't. How
yes, she
old
did.
would she have been at that point? Is this before you've arrived?
No. This was
You're around.
like I was like 20.
Oh, okay. So you went to watch it, right? Or-
Yeah, like my parents had a really fucked up marriage where they were just like domestically kind of pulling off the idea of marriage, sort of, but like slept in separate beds and super abusive and horrible. And my mom, like my dad was super controlling, and my mom never really got to have like a real job. And then when they finally got divorced, she just like got an amazing job and started doing stand-up comedy.
What was her bit? What was her like angle? What was her thing?
Well, her thing is kind of like, I'm a suburban mom, but I'm also really dirty and bitchy about pop culture. But to give you a little taste, I showed up one time and she was like, is it okay if I talk about you a little bit? And she she told a story. I guess I must have been like 18 or 19 because I was not living with her, but I was still very like needy and freaked out about being an adult. And so I guess I texted her like a picture of my genitalia and said, is this herpes? And she totally roasted me on stage. And I love it. I was like, I can't believe that she's doing this. It felt like she was like really stepping out there and realized what was funny about her life, you know?
There's, some people, sometimes, you meet someone who says, I'm close to my mum. Me and my mum are super close. That sounds like you're another level of closeness.
Yeah. We're like the Comedy Central Gilmore Girls.
Okay.
I want to say. You know what I mean? Like way more fucked up Gilmore Girls.
Okay.
Where like, but also like with like screaming fights when I was a teenager and stuff. But every partner that I've ever had, when they look at my texts with my mother, are like, how are you sharing this information? It's great.
Was she good?
She's really funny.
Was she good at the comedy? Did she go down well?
Well, I always say that I like barely ever drink ever in my life. I feel like it's such a depressant. I'm just like, I can't add one more thing. But when I saw her for the first time, I got like wasted because I was so nervous. And I didn't need to. She was so fucking funny. Like every other time and she's been doing it on like Zoom. She does this show called Uncabaret in normal times that is every Sunday. And they've been doing it on Zoom. And so my brother and I watched it last week, and yeah, it crushes. It's great.
I'm going to check this out. What's her name? Is there a name that people listening to this should be finding her stuff?
Just Jamie Bridgers.
Really Jamie Bridgers. Okay. Mm-hmm. Nice. And is that her full-time thing?
I mean, no, because there's like no money in it, especially during a pandemic. But it's her full-time passion, and I've seen her like sell out places, and she's at all the same spots as like, I've met a bunch of like famous comedians through my mother at this point, which is fucking incredible.
Who's your mum introduced you to?
I kind of met like Tig Notaro in the same scene, and this guy Alex Edelman, who's fucking hilarious. She took me to a show that Margaret Cho was doing that she did. It's really it's a very close knit and like DIY world, which I love. Like it's kind of more punk rock than, oh, please excuse the circular saw outside of my house if you can hear that.
I can't hear that.
Okay, good.
Who's that? Is that a neighbor building a shack?
Someone's like preparing for the apocalypse. Okay. Or something. I get it.
Probably a good idea.
Probably a good idea.
Is that where you get your sense of humor from? Do you get that from your mum? Because I was going to say, like, the fact that you love the word cunt, for example, and you also like twat, right? But you said, I love twat. But I like that you call it.
I like the
twat.
way you say it though, twat. Yeah, I say, like, my mom says twat all the time. It's just so offensive, you know? Fucking offensive.
See, over here, that's not. It's not very offensive. That just means like they're a bit of an idiot. You'd say,
right. I feel like I hear it only in America, at least. To me, it means like stupid woman.
Oh,
like you would never call you would never call a man a twat. Actually, you would. I do all the time. But then there's twit, which is very
that's like that's very polite. That's
who the fuck would ever say that word?
Yeah, no, twit is.
I'm gonna start to use that now.
Twit is for like the kind of thing that British public school boys might say, or their parents might say to them. It's a polite word. But twat is still not that bad. Like twat is just like that guy's a bit. I guess it's similar. Would be jerk, like the way you'd call someone a jerk.
Okay,
we'd call them a twat. Yeah.
Right.
But those kind of words are quite British words. And you like British comedy because you were saying that you really like Staff Lets Flats.
Yes.
Right. And that shows quite a cult show even here. Like, it's quite a niche show here. Where have you,
I love
where
it.
did you, is that showing in the States, or you just found it online?
No, not at all. Like, my Irish friend who lives in London, was like, you have to check out this show. And we watched the whole, like, first season. And then turns out that dude, Jamie, has, like, been to my shows before. So now I'm just, like, obsessed with it and was like, how did I miss out on, like, this entire beautiful universe of comedy? It like reminds me of stuff over here. Do you guys have, like, Tim and Eric?
Is that a Comedy Central thing? I feel like
I don't know. I feel like they've been on tons of stuff. Like, originally, like, on YouTube, but I'm sure they had a legit TV show. Anyway, it goes so perfectly with so much of my favorite American comedy, and it's almost like Curb Your Enthusiasm or something, just like, or Nathan For You. I love that whole genre.
Like Jamie Demetrio, who writes and is Staff from Staff Let's Flats. Didn't he come? Was it your house he came to, or was it a friend's house?
Yeah, my friend brought him to my, like, birthday hangout without telling me, and I had just watched, like, the night before, so that was sweet. I love when the universe feels small in that way, you know.
Was he cool? Were you cool when he
literally made me, I mean, me and my other friends who were listening to him, like, he literally made me pee a little bit. He was so fucking funny. You know, like I was just like, that super, I'm sure it's so embarrassing and it happens to him all the time, but I wanted everybody around to, like, just listen to him talk.
Right.
I was pissing myself.
Did you see Fleabag?
Oh yeah.
His part in Fleabag, although so small, is just incredible.
Oh, he's incredible.
The reveal of his teeth when he's on the bus.
Oh, it's perfect.
Is an amazing.
I mean, she's just a fucking genius.
Yeah, she
also,
is, isn't she?
Like, just an honor to share the same name. I will tell you something I did not grow up with, which is Alan Partridge.
Did you not? Do you like it now?
I love it. It's just crazy how huge it is over there, and how, like, maybe you'd hear about it in passing over here. Like, I mean, I eat that shit up. Like, that, I'm sure tons of comedy that's been inspired by Steve Coogan and whatever. But, like, the fact that it's a household name over there is very weird because it would crush over here. And
it's weird that one never reached you, right? Like, it's never been shown. It's never made it onto TV.
No, I think I saw it on streaming the other day, and I also saw Staff Lets Flats on, like, HBO, or I can't remember what, but yeah, I was like, finally. Oh, you know what I fucking love is This Country.
Oh yeah.
Oh, dude, that makes me cry in, like, the just, like, bent over laughing.
I'm basically trying to go through things that we've not spoken about, because it's weird. It's kind of already weird that we're having the same conversation twice. It'd be really weird if we just pretended we'd never spoken.
Yeah, but do you know what interviews are? Like, I feel like this is fun because it's a conversation, but my life is being like, so when did you start playing music?
I know.
And I think at this point I have convinced myself that I'm answering it differently every single time.
But do you think you do a good job of pretending? Even when it's just the same thing, are you good at styling it out and making it seem like you're interested?
I would like to believe that I'm good at it. I have definitely said the exact same anecdote in, like, back-to-back interviews or something, which is kind of humiliating, with, like, the exact same punctuation or, like, nuance that I think I have. It's just, like, a fucking Rolling Stone interview is exactly the same as my Pitchfork interview,
yeah.
But, you know, I tell the same stupid story about my pants falling down somewhere or whatever, and it's just like, does this person have a personality? But my favorite one ever, because sometimes when you're on press trips, it gets really gnarly because it's just, like, over and over and over in the same day. My favorite one that happened was Better Oblivion Community Center was doing our press trip, and we were in an interview where they asked us the exact same question that had been asked in like every interview. I can't even remember what it was at this point, but it was like, a sort of similar question to what they'd asked earlier in the interview, like, how did you guys meet, or why did you guys decide to join a band, or whatever it was. And we've been doing so many that Connor literally with the exact same tone and like gave the same answer that he gave to like 2 questions before in the same interview. Like told the same story. I was like, this is really fucking with our brains. Like having to have the same conversation. Within the conversation, you think it's a new answer.
From now on, let's say, right, if I ask you anything and you're sick of answering it, just say no, or hold your hand up. So we're not doing that. It's part of the game, though, right?
Yeah, and also just like, I've always hated the like. So much of the quote unquote rock star personality is just being a dick.
Yeah.
To like people.
Yeah.
If someone's being a dick to me, I have no problem saying, "Excuse me, but go fuck yourself." Like I've definitely had some questions where I was like, "What?" But if someone's like, especially if it's like a younger woman who's very nervous to be interviewing me, and they ask questions that someone just asked, it's like, just be nice. Like, this is important. This isn't like, especially if you're touring around like a college or something.
Yeah.
It's like, I know a bunch of musicians that would just be like, what the fuck are these questions? I'm like, this is this person's day right now, is what they have to do for their job.
Yeah.
So I feel like being nice is the best. I also just trashing a hotel room. What is that? Like, you're just making someone with a fucking shitty job clean up after you. You're not like sticking it to the man. You're sticking it to like someone with children.
Do you think people still do that?
Get home. I know people still do that for sure. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's just, I heard like a story about the Replacements like tracking shit into a very fancy party, and I'm like, do you think the fancy people had to pick that up? Like, no. It was like dog shit or something. I was like, that's stupid. Anyway.
At the top of your Twitter profile, that picture never fails to make me laugh. Which is like 2 pictures of you holding up Bon Iver records with a Bon Iver t-shirt on, pulled up over your kind of, just so your face is poking out through the neck hole.
Cornholio.
Where was that taken?
Beavis and Butthead. I think I was probably 17, and it was taken in my childhood bedroom. After a Bon Iver show. It was for I definitely was 17 because that's when the self-titled album came out, and I got home from that show and took those photos.
I think it really sums up the experience of being a 17-year-old having just listened to a Bon Iver record. You haven't worked with Justin, have you?
I have. Yeah, I sang on the People record, and we actually played the Apollo in London. He's the best, and I played his festival in Eau Claire. Yeah, he's so cool.
In those moments, do you think back to the 17-year-old who had that? Do you think back to that photo?
Yeah, I love that feeling. I also just like, normalizing being a super fan, because I think it's I don't know. I think my New Year's resolution this year, which I think I've stuck to, is just like, be honest with people and be yourself.
Yeah.
No, but seriously, just like, there's nothing more fun than working with somebody and then getting to tell them afterwards, like, dude, I seriously saw every LA show that you played. I wrote Bon Iver lyrics like on my guitar case when I was fucking 15.
Do they tend to take that like I think that's really nice that you do that. I think that's like, I would like to do that. This kind of comes back to this thing of like being like a journalist, quote unquote. I use that term on myself very loosely, but I feel like I can never say that to somebody. I can never say, by the way, even at the end, I can't say, by the way, I'm such a big fan of yours. It really means a lot. I feel like they're going to think I'm lying because I'm an evil journalist now, right? But I think, I guess as a fellow artist, it's maybe a bit easier for you to say, hey, by the way, this means everything to me, and for them to not cringe themselves inside out and be sick on you.
Yeah. Well, also, I just love that shit. When it is genuine, I'm not gonna... I definitely have heard it from people where I'm like, no. Or my favorite is when people are like, my girlfriend loves your music. I'm like, cool.
Send her over.
Yeah, like, why am I talking to you then? Or like, I can't wait till I start getting my mom loves your music and shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, when it feels genuine, and those are like my favorite interactions with people, because I have crazy imposter syndrome, and I'm just like, does anybody actually like me at all? So it's nice when somebody's like, hey, this is really fucking cool, or whatever. Like, those are normal interactions. But I know for a fact I've definitely punished people before, but yeah, it's, for the most part, it's just fucking music, you know? It's like, all you're saying is, your music excites me and I like it. That's a great thing to hear.
That's a nice thing to say, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So here's a thing that I thought we could do to make sure that this will definitely mean that we don't repeat ourselves before. We used to do this feature in our magazine. We don't do it anymore, but it was called Getting to Know You. And we'd send a set of questions to an artist. It'd be the same questions I basically stole this idea from Vanity Fair. Okay.
Amazing.
We just called it something different. But it's the same questions. We'd email them to an artist, and they'd fill them out and send them back like a questionnaire. Do you want to do some of them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
The worst job you've had. By the way, these are probably all questions that you have been asked about 1,000 times. I've just realized that in saying that out loud. But
I have an interesting answer,
okay,
which is
go
that
for it.
I have really never held a job.
Okay.
Except for weird odd jobs. Like, basically, when I graduated high school, I got cast in a commercial, like, almost immediately, which was incredible, because then I got to, because I was looking for jobs.
What was
played
it
a
for?
show. Apple.
What?
Yeah,
I thought you were
in
going
an
to
Apple
say
commercial.
like it was a local shop. Like,
Totally. No, I mean, this is the fucking weird dystopian whatever that is Los Angeles. But I was playing bass in a punk band, and somebody came up to me and was like, would you audition for this commercial? And I was like, huh? You know, I mean, sure, whatever. And then turns out it's like super, super legit. And we got it and we did it, which basically paid for me to live while making my first record. Like, I didn't sign until, my parents don't have money. And again, I didn't have a fucking job. So it was amazing. That was awesome. So that was definitely not the worst job I've ever had, because it was
that's the best job.
It was the best job.
That's better than this job. Did you
Totally.
Did you have to so in the ad, it's like a TV ad, right?
Yeah.
Did you? Yeah. What were you doing? You were playing in the band?
Yeah, we played and sang a Pixie song into an iPhone.
Shit, that's cool.
Yeah, it was sick. And then I was like, because I think some of the instruments had been pre-recorded, and I was like, oh, I'm sure this is like, just like some session dudes, like, but they're trying to make it look like it's teenage girls, like, that's kind of shitty, but whatever. And then I met the session players, and they were all women.
Oh, cool.
So it was sick. But anyway, so that was great. But before that, I would busk in high school for money every weekend.
This is in the market, right?
Yeah, like in the farmer's market, I would play my guitar and put out my guitar case, and people would throw money in there. And some of it was so great. Some of it was super fun, and like little kids would dance, and I would try not to sing any fucked up songs or curse, because I just knew like a kind of an endless amount of covers. And then but then it was also horrible. Like, the things that people think that they can say to you when you're standing on the street playing for free are like insane, and you just have to be kind of like nice to everybody.
Like what?
And you're stuck there, and you're gonna, I mean, just like, I don't know, like grabbing at me, or like standing really close behind me, like giving me advice about music. Yeah, it's just like an invitation for older men to be like heinous to you.
Have you been asked that? Have you been asked that question about a million times?
I think so, and I'm always embarrassed to be like, I never clean bathrooms or whatever. I think that's kind of a rite of passage, but yeah.
I'm going to skip the next one because you definitely would have been asked that. I'm going to ask you, what was your first big extravagance?
Ooh, that's a good one. I think my mom got, this doesn't really count because I asked for Fiorentinian baker boots for Christmas, which are fucking expensive. And my mom fucking got them for me for Christmas. She was kind of the queen of an amazing gift.
Okay.
So that was definitely the first extravagant thing in my life. And I wore them to shit. I still have them, but they're like, they make this horrifying sound. I was probably like 14 when I got those, which is insane. Why would you get a 14-year-old expensive boots? But
your mum is coming out of this podcast extremely well.
As the hero, totally.
This is kind of a podcast for her now, really. She's hijacked it without even being here.
But I saw Patti Smith, and she was wearing them, and I was like, those are mine now. Sorry, everyone. I'm not going to rest until I get my hands on those, and then I got them for Christmas.
Since you've become a millionaire rock star, what was have you bought anything? Are you good at spending money? Are you a saver or are you a spender?
I'm a spender.
What?
I don't have that much overhead.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have very many expenses, especially in a pandemic year where I am lucky enough I definitely would be making way more money if I were on tour, but I'm lucky enough to have at least some semblance of a job. And so I've definitely like woken up at 3 a.m. and bought something super weird online. And in normal times, I like adventures, like I'll go to a fancy hotel with all my friends and spend 3 days hanging out. Yeah. And then make the bed when I'm leaving. No. But yeah, I love spending money. It makes me feel good. I'm staring at like one of those diptyque candles right now.
Oh,
I feel like the amount of times I just am sad and I just buy diptyque candles online and then have them shipped to me and I forget, and then 3 days later I'm like, oh, I bought me a present.
Those candles are kind of the height of extravagance in a way.
Seriously. I also there was a tweet once that was like, Mom, who's coming over tonight? Me. And then it was a picture of one of their candles that's called Few Du Bois. That kind of crushed me. Few Du Bois.
Okay, next question. Who would play you in a film of your life?
Brie Larson.
Done.
Right?
Yeah.
The amount of times that I get tagged in like Brie Larson photos where she kind of looks like me is like 100%.
Hey, that's good though, right? That's like,
it's good. She's hot. Same with Michelle Williams. I get Michelle Williams sometimes. I'm like, I'll take it. Hot leads with awards.
This is a happy one. How would you choose to die?
Not knowing.
Yeah, that's like
exactly I want someone to shoot me in the back of the head from behind.
That is exactly mine. Sniper.
Wow. Yes, yeah. Sniper.
Because
totally.
It's even if it happened right now while we were on this, I would never know.
Who cares?
It would never have been a concern of mine at any point.
Totally.
Yeah, I'm glad we're on the same page
sniper.
on that one.
Yeah.
Sniper.
I don't know how many indie rock snipers there are out there, but just so you know, I'm hiring you I'm not going to go there. I was going to say like...
Yeah, don't put it...
If I have some sort of like terminal illness, just like fucking... I want it. Back of the head.
What would you tell your 15-year-old self?
Oh my God, this was so funny because I did... Not 15-year-old self, that's a slightly different question, but I got this question sort of a while ago where it was like, what would you tell your younger self? And I went on this huge rant about how I would tell myself that like all men are pigs. Yeah. And that I was like, I would tell myself, which is true, I would tell myself like, if an older man is like producing you or trying to sign you or do something for you, just know that you are why they are cool. And they are trying to be cool with association to you. They are not cool because they fucking produced the Goo Goo Dolls like before you were fucking born. Like that doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like they are trying. That's the Goo Goo Dolls. They haven't done shit in so long. Like just know that like you are their next grasping at relevance, and you have all the control, even though they are trying to make you feel like they have all the control and they're doing you an enormous favor. You being in the room is the only reason that anybody gives a shit about the room. So I went on that big rant, and then my very sweet and older male producer, who I continue to work with and refuse to do any projects without, his name's Tony Berg. He's a fucking legend. But he sent me a screenshot of it and was basically like, what the fuck? I was like, I am definitely not talking about you. Like, these are people that I like met once and then blew off, or people who sent me a shitty record contract when I was like 18, and is not the person who I like beg to work with every time I get offered any sort of project. But he sent me like like me in quotes. So I got kind of in trouble for saying that.
Has he produced the Goo Goo Dolls as well?
I mean, God, I hope not. If he had, it would be so funny. But I mean, I wouldn't put it past him, because he's been in music forever, and he also like ran Geffen Records forever, and he's worked with all kinds of funny people, but I think of him mostly as a producer. But that killed me. Like that he's like reading my interviews in the middle of the night, for one, but two is like reading into this rant I went on about people I don't know anymore. Yeah, it was so funny.
I think that is great advice for your younger self. I mean, that does prove, the fact that you have been asked that already totally proves my point. There's no original question, is there? Had you been asked how you choose to die before? That was original, right?
I don't think so. That was original. But sometimes when people try to get too fancy, or like heady with questions, I'm like, I mean, the truth. I feel like if I were a journalist, it'd be like, well, what do I actually want to know about?
Yeah.
You know? And if it's like the same question, if it's Googleable, whatever. But like, if you're curious about something, it's like, who gives a shit?
Yeah, yeah.
You know? But sometimes I do get like grad students who are like, so, you know, the imagery of the pelicans circling is a ancient Mayan thing about death or what. I'm like, no. So
shall we do the Einstein's dirty secret stuff, or are you sick of that?
Sure.
You're sick of it, right?
I mean,
I've basically forgotten to segue into it. I was going to say the 15 thing. We were going to talk about that. Right. And then I was going to segue into that.
Well, my first band was called Phoebe and the He-Men.
Oh, hey, that's a good name.
Which is a great name. And then I had Einstein's Dirty Secret, which I'm still friends with, like, all those dudes. They play in, yeah, it's great.
That is something we did talk about before, because I had watched the live stuff. There's one live show that's on YouTube of you playing in that band when you were about 17, right? And you all look kind of have like some real Panic at the Disco hair going on, the guys and yourself. You all look great. You're wearing really good suits. It's strong. I think I'm not just saying it. I thought it was good. But what I didn't realize was because obviously Julian Baker is a close friend of yours and you're in Boy Genius with her and all of that stuff. But I didn't realize it was her going on tour with her that made you realize, actually, that's the type of music I want to make.
Totally. Yeah, it's true. I think I sang really loud for a long time, which is funny because then I feel like I totally revolted from that, and there's no loud singing whatsoever on my first record, because I was like on and off tour with Julian, and I just was like, oh, this is the most powerful music I've ever heard. But it was almost like musical theater when I was 17, like Panic at the Disco musical theater.
So when you went on that tour, with that first tour with Julian, were you on that tour doing like the Panic at the Disco stuff?
No. I was on tour with my drummer Marshall and just me.
Right.
And we were like, it was crazy to even have drums opening for Julian because she was totally solo. So I was pretty much like writing my first record. Like all the good songs for my first record I wrote on that tour, which is crazy in retrospect because I was playing a full set of like my okay songs. And then I feel like I heard Julian and was like, oh, that's what I do now.
Your first album was its birthday this week, about 3 days ago,
yes.
Right? 3 years ago. The world has imploded since then. What was the day like it came out? Can you remember what it was like?
I think I was on tour with Connor Oberst. And it's funny because I told him the other day, I was like, dude, my first record came out 3 years ago. How fucking crazy is that? Because he met me way before that because I was going to mix with Mike Mogus, and that's how we met, who's in Bright Eyes. And he was like, that's so crazy because he had been listening to it for like a year before it came out, and he helped me sequence it. And it just the fact that my life is so different. I had this feeling before my first record, or I really wanted it to be true. Like in my darkest, most secret moments was like, I think my life is going to start if I can just have an album because I really want to be a musician. But like I have this fucking 7-inch with 3 songs on it. Nobody knows what my music sounds like. I barely know what it sounds like. I just need a record so that if someone asks me what I do, I don't have to like send them my SoundCloud demos or like try to explain it. I can just show them this record. And that is absolutely true. Like I feel like my life started, I started doing what I wanted. I stopped having to explain myself. It was kind of a slow burn too. Like the label was like, we look at first week album sales and we all like laugh at it. So like nobody listened to your fucking record.
Well, can you remember were you told the number?
I wasn't told the number, but they were laughing when they told me about the number. So, so yeah, I mean, I played like 100 cap show in London. It's been great. It's been fucking great. Like it makes me super happy and, like everything I thought about it was true, which is I got to do what I wanted after that. I got to make a band of my favorite people and tour it. And then I feel like this record is even better because I got way more comfortable and, so highly recommend. Makes you feel good about yourself. Put out a record.
Put out a record. Wait 3 years. It will all be fine.
Exactly.
I like the fact that your label probably, I'm guessing they told you that they were laughing at those first week numbers. Well, did they tell you that fairly recently? Or certainly quite far after the fact?
I bet they were crying.
I bet at the time they were
exactly.
It's fine for them to tell you now, right? But
totally.
At the time they were worried. There were meetings about you. There would have been meetings about you. And that
for
record.
Sure. Yes.
Been like, what are we going to do here?
What should we do about her?
I'm conscious of the fact that we're recording this for a second time anyway, and you've got things to do. So I'm going to let you go. I was going to. I don't think we probably don't have time, but we were talking about us both being Leos before, because you just had your birthday and I just had my birthday. What was the name of you told me about an app that can basically
CoStar.
It's called CoStar.
It's the best.
CoStar, because I have found out the time I was born.
Oh, cool! You should go.
And why did I need that?
Download CoStar.
What was the thing I needed for that for? What was that going to tell me?
It'll tell you your chart, and it'll give you very bitchy notifications every day. Like, let me tell you what my chart says today. Let's see. Come on. So yeah, I'm Leo, Capricorn, Moon, Pisces rising. What does it say today? Updates. You can't be everything for everyone. That's what mine says today. Today I feel out of control. Sick. That's great news. Yeah, but it's really cute and it looks kind of like a zine. Wow, that you can't see, but
I can see that.
It's very fun. And you can see your friends that you match with. I'm actually a perfect match with my sound guy.
Okay.
So I'm like, maybe we'll get married one day. Like that'll be like the story of, I'm like, do you know she's married to her sound guy?
That's pretty
He's
good.
He's a catch.
Yeah.
He's a babe.
Oh,
his name is Morgan.
Lock it in.
Yeah, I'm going to lock it in. But yeah, we literally have nothing
in common.
We have everything in common. There is no section on here that is dissimilar from each other. We're like the same person.
It's like marrying yourself.
Yeah, which I would love to do because I'm a fucking Leo.
Absolutely. Amen.
Yeah.
Amen to that. Phoebe, well, thanks for take 2. I think it was good. I think it's good. I've been checking that I've been recording, and I 100% have.
Hell yeah.
And I just wanted to say that my girlfriend really loves your music.
Well, tell her I love her too, and that I'll be over later tonight.
That was such a terrible joke. I'm sorry for ending. I'm sorry for ending on that.
I like it.
Anyway, good night.